I have lost more than 70 subscribers since I started doing my stock market crash videos, and the main reason for that is because most people, they want to hear what makes them feel better. So if they are down on their positions, they want somebody to tell them that everything is fine and we're gonna go back up. And they listen to these people all the time. Do you remember tax loss harvesting, the biggest lie in the world? People were hyping up tax loss harvesting in December, and then January they said everything's gonna go back up. And many people I know, they told me in the comments, they bought call option on kind of small caps because they think tax loss harvesting is the reason in December. And that wasn't the truth. And I came out and I said this wasn't the truth. And I was one of the few people that has been talking about this stuff for the past 6-7 months. And people made fun of me back then, and they still make fun of me today because I say the truth, even though it's not maybe what makes you feel better. And now I can stop. I can say I've been right all along, but this time let me stop it and say, we are at a bottom and everything is fine. But I would be lying to you yet again. We are still not at a bottom. So in this video, I'm going to tell you when do I think this stock market will bottom and my overview in general. So if you've been stuck with me all the time, you didn't unsubscribe, I thank you so much for that. Now, the main thing with investors right now, they're looking at a lot of stocks like the ARK Innovation ETF. It's down, from $155 to $64 a share, and other growth stocks. And they're saying, look at those stocks. They're trading at a price to sales of 543, and then they're growing 60-70% revenue. Why is that happening? Is the market drunk? The valuation don't matter? No. They're not understanding that this time is different. What do you mean by this time is different? This time we have inflation, and we also have higher interest rates. And whenever you want to value a stock in the future, the earnings are going to be discounted at a lower multiple. Why? Because they're going to be discounted at, for example, 7% inflation or 5%, and let's assume 2% interest rates, which we are going to have eventually in the future, which the market is pricing it in. This is what most investors are not understanding. The price to sales doesn't matter right now. The stock could be a price sales of 1 or half or 2 or 5. It doesn't matter right now. What matters is earnings right now. And a lot of other kind of stocks that are deep values, that have high earnings, high free cash flow, are going up. Stocks I showed you, like the tobacco companies in Europe and many others, they are going up. Because this is what matters right now, earnings. Whenever there's inflation, big investors want earnings right now. And I know it's very hard to say we're not at the bottom yet if you just look at ARK Innovation from $155 to $64. But again, I'm still taking the stand again. I'm putting my name on the line and I'm saying we're still far from a bottom yet again. Why? I do it with two things. I do it with fundamentals, and then I do it with investors' behavior, investors' psychology. What are investors doing and how are they acting? And usually you take the opposite side of this trend. Now, for me, on terms of fundamentals, there's no question we're still way above the water, over 2 standard deviations above the trend for the S&P 500. This is still massively high in terms of valuations. Even though the growth stocks are looking like a deal, but as I said, they want earnings right now, and this trend can continue for the future. Now, in terms of the market crash itself, to me, the stock market hasn't crashed yet as long as we're above 4,000 on the S&P. 4,000 is when it goes under 4,000, this is when I feel we really started crashing on the S&P 500. I know this might sound scary and nobody's talking about this stuff, but this is my personal opinion. Now, if we go under 4,000, 3,500 for me on the S&P would make me feel that we are somewhat close to a bottom. So it may bottom on 3,500, it may not. But the real bottom for me, for my personal opinion, is around 3,000 on the S&P. And that's way below we were in 2020. And I know it's scary and all that stuff, but this is my opinion. But more, I think once we cross under 4,000, this is when I start thinking that we really crashed on the S&P 500. Around 3,500 for me is somewhat close to a bottom for me to consider it. Again, look at the chart. Look how much we went up since the pandemic of 2020. Do you think this is normal? No, this is not normal. Now, in terms of investors' behavior, most people don't understand that because they think it's all PEs and price of sales, but it has a lot to do with investors' psychology and what are investors doing. And from me studying stock market crashes before in 99, in the 1929, which is very similar to the stock market crash, and even in 2008, from me studying that stuff, normally always at the bottom, people get devastated, people stop buying the dip, they call the stock market a scam, and many of them kind of cash out, they leave their accounts, they call it a scam, and let's say they don't go back in until 10 years. For example, the dot-com bubble, this is what happened. When did people go back in 2008? And this is how the cycle always happened. Now, what I'm saying, I'm saying, investors still buying the dip mentality. Just buy the dip and hold forever. Look how much we've come through and all that stuff. And this is the way you should think. And now what I'm saying is investors keep buying the dip, buy the dip and hold forever. No matter if they made a mistake, no matter if they overpaid for the stock, you just buy the dip and they don't admit their mistakes. And this is the kind of thing where it really shows me that we are not even close to a bottom on the S&P 500. Whenever we are close, investors stop buying the dip. They say either they made a mistake for overpaying for those stocks, which I'm not saying right now. Nobody is kind of holding themselves accountable. Although I made mistakes, everybody makes mistakes and you learn from them. But nobody now is admitting that they made a mistake for overpaying. They said this is not their fault. This is what really shows me that we are still far from a bottom on the S&P 500 and most of those growth stocks. And what really shows me that the most is if I look at ARK Innovation, it's still trading at $64, which tells me there's still some buy the dip in ARK Innovation. Now for me, as long as ARK Innovation Fund is above $50, we are still not close to a bottom. When it goes under 50, this is when I think we are somewhat close to a bottom. Tesla stock, I know some of you own it that watch my channel. I have nothing against the stock. But again, in terms of fundamentals, the buy the dip mentality is still very strong with Tesla stock. A lot of retail investors own the stock, and I can still see investors buying in 800, 900, thinking it's the best deal in the world for the next 10 years. You're right, for the next 10 years. But now this doesn't matter much. And for me, as long as Tesla is above $500 a share, I personally think we are still not close to a bottom in the tech stock as the S&P 500 and all that kind of stuff. So when will we recover? We're gonna recover whenever either interest rates go back to zero. They didn't even go up yet, but I think they're gonna go up whenever they cut back interest rates to zero, or whenever inflation fully comes down. And I personally think this will not happen until 2024. So meaning 2024, I personally believe that the tech stocks that got hammered, they may go back to break even, not even make new all-time highs or anything. They can go back to break even in maybe late 2023, or for example, first to mid 2024. This is when, if the Fed is expected to cut rates yet again and then go full back to money printing and all that kind of stuff. And then we have the cycle again and again and again. So this was my honest opinion on the stock market. I know I'm going to get unsubscribed again. I'm going to get dislikes and everything, but this is me saying the truth. What I personally think, I could be wrong, and I hope I'm wrong. I hope nothing happens. But again, this is what I'm saying. So I hope you enjoyed it. If you liked it, please press like and maybe consider subscribing. I hope to see you in another one.